Shalom Aleichem, everyone. First of all, I am actually a neighbor of you guys because this is the yeshiva. I'm only a couple blocks away. Rabbi Eichenstein called me this morning and he said, Benham sits around Thursday night, has a little chalom, little Dvar Torah. You know, it's a very relaxed atmosphere. Come over, say a couple words. I said, all right, so, we're neighbors. Maybe we'll talk about something that has to do with neighbors. And he said it's going to be a very relaxed atmosphere. So that's, didn't come too prepared, but I had a beautiful idea that I saw a while ago in this week's parsha that I always love to share. So he happened to call me in a good parsha, Parsha Shoftim, one of my favorite dvarts that I like to expand upon from the Znaim L'Torah. So I figured, why not do it with neighbors, and maybe we'll all gain something from it. Fair enough? So the pasuk in this week's parsha, in Perek Yud Zayin, pasuk Zayin, talks about when two Edom see somebody doing an avera that's mechayev misa, and they give Edom hasra. What are you learning? Okay, so they give hasra, and they warn the person, and the person still does the avera, and they have no choice. They come to Bezdin, they testify about the person, and Bezdin has no choice but to do the one thing that they don't want to do, but they have to kill this person. The Torah says, we have to kill this person. One of the big averas, one of the Shabbos, or one of the ones that's mechayev skila. We have to kill the patient. We have to kill the Baal Avera. But what does the Torah say? The Torah says Yad ha'edim tia by b'rishayna. So how does it work? So it works is that these Edom, the two people, the testimony that came and warned the person, they're the ones that have to be the executioners. They're the ones that are the first one to throw the rock on this person, and then everyone else could finish. But they are, in essence, they have to be the executioners. That's what the Torah says. The Edom, they are the executioners. And the Znaim Torah is very, very, very bothered by this. He says, even in the medieval times, right? Medieval was the worst times. It's called medieval because they were the worst times in the history of the world. They were barbaric, horrible people when they used to do executions left and right on stages in public. But even then, the executioner wore a mask. Why? Because executioner is the worst possible, disgusting job and position a person could do. To actually press the button on the electric chair, to pull the plug. That is the worst job. He says they used to get paid a lot of money, and that wouldn't be enough. They would have to cover their face so that people wouldn't know who they were. So the executioner is the worst horrific job that a person could possibly have. So here's a simple question. He says, these Edom, they did everything right. They tried to get the guy to tshuva. They said, please don't do the avera. They warned him. Then they didn't ignore their responsibilities. They came to Bez. They did everything right. Why were they put in position where they now had to go ahead and quote unquote be the executioners, one of the most despicable jobs that a person can possibly have? So as Znaim Torah answers with a tremendous theme, we'll expand on it with a lot of other ideas, but once you hear the theme, the question doesn't even begin. He explains that the Torah gave punishments for two reasons. Number one reason, which is, he says, not even the main reason, is to punish the person that did the Avera. Hashem could punish the person that did the Avera, but for whatever reason, certain Averas, he gave it to people. But he said the main reason, the second reason, is to forewarn and to, stop the people from seeing somebody do this Avera, be influenced in that way, and actually do something similar. So therefore he says that when Edom, even though they did everything right, but when they see a person doing a big Avera, whether it's Ritzicha, whether it's Chil Shabbos, whatever they're doing, that would have an effect on the person. That would affect the person, the Edom, that see this act, because they were right there, in such a negative way that now they, in essence, would somehow be worse off people, and maybe now doing an Avera would not be so hard for them. And therefore, since being around an Avera, being around somebody that did an Avera, being influenced by negative, things that they've seen is going to affect them, the Torah does a chesed. And the Torah says the only way possible that this person could be protected is Yada Edom Tiba Rishayna. They have to be the executioner. Since the executioner is so disgusting, it's so despicable, that in a way, by actually being the executioner, by actually going ahead and doing whatever needs to be done, that will somehow protect them as well, because they'll see when you do this act, this is what happens. Then the effect of watching that there originally will be minimized, and it will, in essence, it will in essence take away whatever they saw. It will in essence take away the influences of the people that they were around and the people that and what they saw. This idea is found in last week's parasha, a similar idea when Parashas Re'eh, Torah talks about Ir Nidachas, where the Ohr HaChaim talks about this as well, in which the Torah gives a bracha after it tells Bezin you have to destroy an Ir Nidachas, you have to wipe out every mother, child, living possible thing in Ir Nidachas. The Torah says, but the lashon of pasuk is v'nasnecha rachamim v'rachamecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu then gives the bracha of rachamim. Why? Because even though what they're doing is al pi the Torah, but doing an act that's a rishis act, in essence, could have an effect on a person, and therefore they couldn't do it. David HaMelech couldn't build the Beis Hamikdash. This idea that that doing things, being around people, having influences around you is obviously a theme we find throughout the Torah. There's a couple of other beautiful ideas, places where I like to apply this idea. The Torah also says tzedek tishbar amisecha. So, and Maral Diskin says, and Rashi says on that, what does that mean? He done it on the kapschos. That means if you see someone doing an avera, you mamish see him doing an avera. Says Rashi, you should mamish be mishaker in yourself. You should view it as if he's not doing an avera, even though it's 100% he did an avera, but you have to be down on the kapschos. Now, normally, mitvasher ketirchak, a person shouldn't make himself look at things falsely. Why would he view this falsely? Says Maral Diskin, the same idea. This is because when you see someone doing an avera, it affects you the wrong way. It affects you negatively. Therefore, the Torah, rather you be mishaker in your mind, rather you look at it as if he's not doing an avera, so that you shouldn't be affected. That you shouldn't be affected in such a way. Well, one last beautiful idea that's similar to this that I always shtel to is in Parashas Mishpatim. In Parashas Mishpatim, the Torah says that by the Eved Ivri, if he stays for 6 years and then he wants to stay forever, he wants to stay until Yovel. So what's the halacha? The Ratza Adain of his Adam Amatzeya. So the Adain goes and has to take a drill, has to take him to a door and drill in his ear, straight through his ear into the door, right? Most people remember that halacha from Parashas Mishpatim. And what's always bothersome to me was a very similar question, and that is, we know that an Eved Ivri, someone that stole, someone that was downtrodden, and this person brought him in. The halachas are that you have to treat an Eved Ivri better than you treat himself. Kaina Eved Ivri kad adon latzma. If you have only one pillow, you have to give it to this Eved Ivri. So this Adain, this master, he listened to the Torah to the fullest. He treated this Eved Ivri so beautifully, right? He took him to trips with him. He did everything that he treated him so well that this person who could become free said, I want to stay in Eved. So he followed the Torah Kohen perfectly. He did everything he was supposed to. He treated this Eved Ivri so perfectly. Now this Eved Ivri says he wants to stay. He's doing an Avera. You're not supposed to stay. He's supposed to be an Eved Hashem. He's doing an Avera. So he wants to stay. So what does the Torah say? The Torah says, who has to take him and do this maisa that seems like an einish? The master has to take his ear, take it, drill, blood splattering everywhere. I don't get too graphic, but it couldn't be pretty. And this poor Adam that did everything right, sweet, tired guy, he has to be the one to drill the ear. What's the pshat? So I think the idea is the same type of thing. That at the end of the day, this Eved Ivri is a Baal Aveira. Now he wants to continue his ways. He wants to stay an Eved. Torah considers that an Aveira. That would affect the Adam. As much as the Adam is doing everything right, that would affect him in a negative way. The Torah, again, makes this same Adam, the same way as the Adam over here. Yada Adam Tivay Rishayna. I think the same idea would apply over there. That's why the Adonov has to take his Adam Matzea by doing the drilling, by actually physically doing the Einish. It will protect him somewhat from being affected negatively by such a thing. So, you know, I'm not a Baldashin. I'm not one to give over any Musar Cyrus, but this idea of having the right Chaverim, being part of the right Chevra, which influences you in the right way, you know, looking and being and seeing things that are only the right things, is not just something for that one time. It affects a person for life. It affects a person for life. There's I remember, I heard over that when Moshe Feinstein was paskening a very controversial psak regarding mamzerim and different verse of kedusha, and there were a lot of so quote unquote right wingers that had a lot of times on him, similar to Steinman when he was paskening that for the army, that that it made sense that certain bachrim and stuff should go to the army, and the right winger said you can never let and stuff like that. And Ramosha said, listen, we want to talk in halacha, we want to go through the psak and the English Moshe and the tshuva, and you want to argue. We could discuss all that. But chas v'sholem, to say that my psak had anything to do with outside influences in all my life. The only thing that entered my body was Torah and Kedusha. I never read a newspaper. I never read anything that would have any influences on me whatsoever. So whatever this psak is coming from, and obviously Ramesh is a very humble man, but when it comes to standing up for what it had to do, he said whatever this psak is, whatever the psak with mamzerim and stuff is, every last detail of it is coming from the only thing I know in my life, and the only thing that I've ever seen in my life and been a part of in my life, and that's the Torah. So obviously, Ramosha, Steinman, these are, super duper gedolim that only had those pure influences. But the idea is that whether it's neighbors, whether it's friends, whatever it is, the Torah gives out this message numerous times. The message of, everything that you see, you do, you're a part of, you're around, influences you one way or another. And those influences are very, very powerful. And even just witnessing a crime, the Torah has a way of protecting a person from that. Every last detail, the Torah has a way of protecting a person from that. And I think that, to me, this idea was besides being a beautiful vart, I enjoyed very much. I thought it was a tremendous lesson and a tremendous idea. And I hope you guys had some enough from it as well. And Hashem, we as neighbors, we should only influence each other in the right way.
Amen.